Good morning, everyone. This is Luda Kopkina with GAI Insights, where we rate daily AI news, essential, important, and optional, saving you time in your busy day and pointing you in the right direction in this mass of news that are happening every day in AI, identifying trends and use cases that can be very useful. So today we have John, Adam, Ashish, and Ankash. Welcome, everyone. Ashish is our regular reviewer. He is an expert in AI. He works for Microsoft, so his perspective is very valuable. Welcome, Ashish. We can't hear you. Okay, let's start with the first article. Ashish, you're frozen. You might need to come back. All right, Ankash, if you could introduce the first article, please.
Sure. Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Amazon. So Amazon has launched Nova family of models. Uh, these include models for generating text, images, and videos, and they have launched multiple varieties of these models, and they are all available on Bedrock.
Okay, so this is an interesting play, strategic play from Amazon, going after everybody with Anthropic tight integration and introducing these complete new models. So, what do you think about it, John?
I think this is an amazing set of models. I'm on the fence between optional and important, because we're in the everyday miracle category. We have a number of things that are in here. If you click on any of these, Ankash, just click on like the football one, if you would. The resolution is unbelievable, and there's a series of other video models we're going to talk about, and some of the other articles. And to my eye, this one is just unbelievably sophisticated. And obviously AWS, massive producer. Paul's out at the user event in Vegas. Paul, what's the name of the event that you guys are at?
Reinvent.
Yeah. And, I will applaud. Amazon actually has a reasonable, naming architecture for this thing. So it's not like, whatever, Omni 2.6, whatever. But the important thing here, I think, is that two things. One, it's obviously integrated in Bedrock across different size models, across multimedia. The other is, they're working on others, speech to speech, multiple input to multiple input. These are fantastic. They're not afraid to compete with the investment they have in Anthropic. So obviously a capability that they want to build. And I was going to give an important, both because of the quality, which to my eye is very high, and most importantly because of the distribution through AWS. And Paul and Mike have been telling me there's 70,000 people at reInvent here. So I mean, it's quite a powerful distribution platform.
Yeah, I was going to suggest we consider essential for this, because if you think about the positioning, from the sheer positioning of what Amazon is doing with this, they're going after the essentially a very broad platform, right? With the chips, with the models, with the supercomputer, and with the Anthropic integration. This is essential for leaders to know, I think. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, hi everyone. She's great to see you, and thanks for joining again. I actually had as essential as well. I think a couple different things, additional to everything said, is this shows a continued verticalization of the stack. One, two, this really shows that Amazon is continuing to push in this vector. So we've had the OpenAI Invector innovation here, and now we've got Amazon, and Google continues to be distant in the past in the back of the pack. Microsoft's there. I think the third thing is that This is the first time I've been to reInvent. I've certainly been aware of it, but it's breathtaking how many people are here. It's also breathtaking how many enterprises are here. And next year is absolutely clear as day going to be an explosive year for purchasing and for going into production here. So customers are alive, walking around their wallets, and very serious here. And this is something that needs to be on the radar screen. And this is very different than on AWS from even 10 months ago, which was just distributing a few models and dabbling in a few startups here. So from my view, essential.
What do you think, Ashish?
Yeah, I'm on the essential camp as well. I read this article last night, and there was another one which they talked about all the other AI investments have done. I agree with Paul. They will completely verticalize this and deep integration into the stack, and their distribution is the key differentiator, I feel. And then again, it's a collection of models, so they are addressing every tier of the AI stack with these models, and I would say essential read for anybody who's on top of Amazon and otherwise as well.
Yeah, with claiming 75% cheaper and claiming 200 languages out of the gate. Adam, what do you think?
I could support essential as well, especially when you look at the full the breadth, as Ashish was saying, that it's a whole suite of models. You know, they even have one at least that's coming out early next year that was announced that's going to go against O1 reasoning, right?
Yeah.
So they're going all the way up to the premier tier of what's competitive at the moment, and then all the way down to Nova Micro, which is high speed, ultra low cost, you know, ultra light, text only, and a very, very inexpensive multimodal model.
Yeah.
So it's worthwhile to make sure people take a look.
Okay, essential it is. Let's go on to the next one, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from Cohere, and they have launched Rerank 3.5 for better AI search.
Yeah, it's a ranker. So, Ashish, what do you think? If you can speak up a little bit, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me better?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is an increment on top of their re-rank 3. It's a brief article. I was on the optional camp for this. The TLDR of this is that, again, different ranking or rank strategy, naive or hybrid, leads to the first step is the search step, where you find the data relevant to the query, and then you augment the query and kind of run through the LLM. And the strategy here is that there is a re-ranking step, which in this case, they're starting to use some reasoning, right? So taking what is the original query and reason whether the bits that they have picked from the search are relevant and only surface the most relevant bits. So interesting tech, but again, very low on details and just a very light article, in my opinion.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agreed. Optional. It's
Okay.
incremental, some nice additions, but probably relevant to people who are using Cohere or considering applications of Cohere. But in the broader impact of when we're looking at the big players in the space, this is an incremental change, sort of on the periphery.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, John, Paul, okay?
Yep.
With optional. Okay. Optional it is. But it's interesting to note that they quote the CTO of Notion. That's an aggregator and a board to put to streamline your searches on the web. And they have been using it for a while. So it's all of that will advance the search capabilities for sure. Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one comes from Tencent. So Tencent has launched Hunyan Video, which is an open source AI video model.
Yes, now the video model. Adam.
This is impressive, and the key here is that it is out of open source. When you look at OpenAI's Sora, when they announced it, and the lead they've had, and we don't know what they've done commercially, privately with it, but to still be withholding that and to see other people that are coming out and just taking the legs out from under them with tremendous capabilities. When you look into the details of this, some of the additional capabilities in terms of matching audio to video dynamically, automatically, camera controls, three different ways to drive the animation, from stick figures to video, from text and sound. It's got a lot to it, and it's very impressive as open source goes. And I'm not sure to what extent previously Tencent has also signaled that they were going to be providing open source. So that's a pretty significant move as well, sort of in alignment with Meta against some of these private and proprietary foundation models. So I thought overall it warranted an important rating.
Important rating. Okay, Ashish?
Adam, I'm sorry, just Adam, clarifying question. How I couldn't figure out how open source it is.
I couldn't either, John. But yeah, we can dig a little deeper. I know there are people out there that are already getting their hands on it, but
yeah, I mean, you could definitely download the model. I just didn't know weights, data.
Yeah, is it the weights? Is it the training, etc.?
Yeah,
Sorry.
and Adam, you think that this is superior to what we reviewed just yesterday, right? I forget the company. So you think
it's not superior. It's very, very close, if not competitive and superior in some specific features. And it's completely open source. That's the thing.
That's the completely open source is the key.
Yeah, well, to whatever extent, but it says this AI model available in the open source domain. So I don't know I haven't dug deeper, as we said, to exactly what they mean in this context, but they're just knocking right on the door of the private models at this point, and that's significant.
Okay. So Ashish, what do you think?
No, I agree with Adam. If this is open source and to what degree this is open source, super interesting. Things that stood out for me was video to audio. Right, you can bring any existing video and it will create the background audio. And they gave some examples. Pankaj, if you could scroll down, where the car is kind of spinning and the waterfall is falling, and they can kind of stitch up audio if you don't have audio. And that, again, they have different aspects of video production in there, which on its own is super helpful. But overall capability as an open source is a hit for me.
Okay.
There were some consistency issues I saw in the videos where, again, it's not very consistent as it transitions into the other frame. But I think those are just kinks that they will knock it out.
John, Paul, what do you think? Should we mark it as optional for now until we know, or should we stay with important?
No, I'd say important. That was kind of funny, Ankash. You muted the sound, but the sound coordination is really impressive. Man, I just again, I need a miracle every day. It's just like, all right, so you take a picture, throw it in there, you take a video, throw it in there. All of a sudden, you have soundtrack. It's like unreal.
Okay, important it is. Let's proceed. Ankash, please.
Oh, I did a quick piece of research. So they didn't specify for this model what they mean by open source, but previous models of theirs haven't met the OSI definition of open source, but use a Tencent Hunyuan community license agreement, which has certain restrictions and limited use, for example, within the European Union. So it wouldn't meet the OSI model, but it sounds like they restrict a little bit on the use, but they make it freely available.
And they don't share the weights of the data.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Meta's open source.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go next.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next one comes from the Allen Institute for AI and UC San Diego, and they talk about how GenAI gave this climate modeling a 25x speed boost.
Yeah, this is very impressive versus the physical model. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I was going to give this an optional for two reasons. I do agree it's an important area. As I understand it, what we're doing here is we're going from a physics-based model to then a geometric description of what the model is, and then using the LLMs to approximate the changes using the geometry instead of the physics, which then takes the computational needs down significantly, like 25 times, as you see in the headline. There are two things that are funky about this article. First of all, there's repetition, just plain old. There's a paragraph that's kind of almost entirely repeated in it, which is weird, and not a lot of quality control there. But more importantly, this approximation using the geometry instead of the physics calculations introduces about 50% more errors on certain variables, like the variables that deal with some of the more extreme parts of the model, like the poles and so forth. And then they do some additional adjustments and get that error rate down to about 30%. But I think that for me, this super important trend of how you use a different kind of semantic system to approximate a model using a completely different representation-based geometry as opposed to the physics, and impressive in terms of the computational improvement. But I think this article is not high quality in terms of just the execution of it with the repetition, and I think they underplay the introduction of new error given this approximation technique. So I gave it an optional.
Yeah. Okay. Ashish, okay with an optional?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I read through this. This is actually, again, super interesting work. We worked on methane kind of leak and physics models sometime in past in our own work. And this is, again, just any AI that can come and improve this will definitely help climate change researchers do their job faster, better, cheaper. So interesting work, but again, I agree with John that should be an option.
And Ashish, did I characterize that correctly in terms of the new representation and approximation and where it gets its value from?
I didn't go deep in the article. I just kind of briefly took it.
Yeah, but when I read it, I was wondering about the new errors and how you would do the assessment of quality and the like. So it wasn't clear from the article. Yeah, but the results are really impressive. Okay, so we go optional for now. Let's go next.
Okay, the next one comes from Google. So they have announced Veo and Imagen 3, which are new video and image generation model, and they are available on Vertex AI now.
Paul, would you like to introduce this one?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's another set of announcements. Continues to be new models everywhere. It seems to be the theme of the day here. I had this optional for the AI leader. Continues to thread that there's more innovation coming out, but what's going on in video is just amazing. But this one's optional. It's an announcement.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I had to catch myself. I almost felt bad for Google, which, it's like feeling bad for the Borg. It's like, for you Star Trek fans, when you look at some of these video renditions, I think they're not as good as the Nova models, that we were just looking at before. You look at the Bear, and if you scroll up a couple of things there, and you look at the man looking up from the desk here, I think those are, they seem like a generation behind what we're looking at with Nova. Anyway,
yeah, the catch up.
But then I caught myself. I was like, I'm not feeling bad for Google. Sorry.
It certainly feels like a catch up. Okay, so optional, right?
I think one just footnote that's, excuse me, Luda, on this. I'm wondering if actually seeing some of the really differences between the kind of internal operating system, if you will, Google versus AWS. We've seen so many examples. We know people over at AWS where they have, so it's decentralized, but they'll have 3 or 4 teams working on a very similar problem. I know most of the executives will have 3 or 4 teams at Amazon come and pitch them, try to save problems here, but it does cause a set of more options for new products and stuff, and that's different than my understanding of how Google works. So it may be one of the reasons that we're seeing more innovation out of AWS.
It's interesting. I was having dinner last night with a friend and client who is working with both Microsoft and AWS, and is finding Amazon much more committed to client service and also solution creation, not simply buying product.
Yeah.
And that's one data point, of course, and you shouldn't generalize from one data point, but I do think AWS is a very capable enterprise organization for doing new stuff, not just selling services into them.
Yeah, so it's something to mention also at the end of the article. There are several examples of companies using it: Mondelez, Quora, Agoda. So good big companies using this platform. So they have been testing it, and it seems like they're focusing on enterprises and signing them quite a bit. So that's good news, but it's a catch up. So
Yeah.
right, optional it is.
Well,
Adam, anything to add?
No, and I'd also add, at least for what I'm seeing, is 90% plus of the enterprise use cases are text. I mean, they're just trying to get their head around, employee chat for efficiency improvement here. The top 3 use cases they finally got through the board after looking at 95 here, and so many of those are just text automation or text enablement for unstructured data for contracts or for coding.
Yeah.
One thing I would say as we go into I'd be curious what you think, Ashish, on this. As we go into 25, which I agree, Paul, is going to be the year of deployment of a lot of these things. We're going to go from the 5% production to much higher, let's say a third or whatever. As we look at these giants with distribution, I think that those that have excellence in serving the enterprise, and what I mean by that is not trying to flog product, but trying to create solutions with client, as has often been said, are going to be the ones that win. And my impression, I haven't dealt with Google for some time. Back when I was at PwC, Google was a provider. And the folks I dealt with were very much product oriented. They had no idea how to think through our solution issues. And I don't know where Microsoft is on that, as I say, from this one data point, but the whoever manages that best, I think is going to win differential market share in 25. Anyway, what do you think, Ashish? Is that a fair?
Yeah, I agree with you that 25 is the year of deployment, and at least from what I have seen, AWS, Microsoft, they have an excellent kind of army of people who help customers deploy, build stuff.
Yeah.
I've not seen the same kind of depth with Google. They've created tech, but that piece of enterprise orientation, I feel they are behind. Also, I was listening to Cohere's CEO's podcast, and he said, if we destroy all the kind of data centers and no new development in AI will happen, the existing AI will take us at least 5 to 10 years to just deploy and kind of build stuff out. So there's so much out there that needs to be brought together to actually create concrete solutions.
Yes.
Yeah, but we've reviewed a number of AWS cases. That database is being for enterprises deploying certain solutions, and how they put it together is very comprehensive. So I think it would also advance them forward versus competition. Okay, all right. So optional it is. A great discussion. Thank you. So let's go next.
Okay, the next one comes from Predibase and Checker. So it talks about how Checker has streamlined their background checks with fine-tuned small language models.
Yes, this is a use case. Ashish, what did you think about this?
It's a very interesting read, and if you look at, so again, just an introduction, Checkers is an entity which does background check. They already have a model which is kind of more traditional logistic regression model, which can do about 98% screening just without human intervention. So they're left with that 2% that they're trying to optimize, and they tried a deep neural network technique, which another kind of takes a slice off, 1% slice off. So they're left with 50%, right? And they have been trying to optimize that and take human out of the loop as much as possible. And they've tried multiple approaches. So it's deep in the sense they talk about how they brought in a large language model with a trained model. And finally, they kind of created a trained model on top of Predibase, which, if I'm not wrong, they had a ton of numbers in this article, they can get to, in that last 2%, almost 90-95% accuracy. And I feel that's phenomenal. I mean, it's a great use case in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Comments, John, Adam?
I'm with an optional as well. Interesting, and it's so fascinating with these models. I think we'll be automating a bunch of drudgery, but then again also at the very high end of performance, helping there as well as new discovery. It's all, if you think in statistical terms, it's almost like we're going to chase both ends of the distribution at the same time. But yes, optional.
Okay, everybody okay with optional? Anything to add? All right, let's go to the next one.
Okay, the last one for today comes from AWS, and it talks about how Amazon Finance Automation has built a GenAI Q&A chatbot using Amazon Bedrock.
Yes, that's the database I was talking about. Very comprehensive and how they do it. Adam, what did you think of the case?
So at first I was thinking it might be time to give these an optional because we're going to continue to see so many out of Amazon, but I ended up giving this an important, and it's actually not because, as the title alludes to, that they built this chat assistant. It's the story they take you on of how they actually went through the process of improving it. In terms of the hallucinations, ingestion issues, and contextual retrieval inaccuracies. When they first built it, they were at 49% RAG accuracy, and it goes through and shows 3 specific things they were able to do to improve the RAG performance and get it up to an 86%. So I think there's some good lessons to learn in here about how it's not just about deploying this RAG, but then about continuing to iterate and what are some of the ways and the techniques that they used in this case to actually improve the accuracy after deployment. So I considered it important for that reason.
Yeah, okay. Paul, John, agreeing with important?
Yep.
Yeah, and I know we're a broken record on this, but one of the things that I want to get done this week is to track down as many people as I can at Amazon who write these, because this is such great work on all these use cases, and everyone needs to be doing it. It's so clear from all the enterprise we're talking about here. People are desperate for specifics on the business case and the technical side, and Amazon marketing and product marketing continues to find people who are putting the time into doing this. So I think as an exemplar of leadership, it's really needs to be applauded. So I had it as important as well.
Yeah, and great best practices, very comprehensive, step by step. What did they do? How they did it? It would be useful for people who are to fine tuning the models.
Yeah.
Ashim?
And Luda, just it goes without saying, this is obviously going into our use case database that Parika and our team and others continue to build, that we're really getting a lot of great use out of.
Yeah, great. So let's, this is the last one. Let's look at our scorecard, Ankash. I think we have 1 essential, 2 importance, and 4 optionals, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, Luda.
Great Wednesday. Thank you all very much for contributing. Thank you, Michael Novak and others for listening and commenting online. Really appreciate it.
Ashish, thanks. And don't forget our buyer's guide navigator is now available as well, and having some good reception from that, from the market on that, to help you understand how to make decisions in this complex market.
And I'd like to at least highlight that Ashish has got a nice piece on his LinkedIn about agentic systems here. So if you get a chance to take a look at that, it's a well-written Ashish.
Great. Thank you all very much, and see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Luda. Bye-bye. Adam.
Thank you.
Ahmed.
Thanks, Ashish.